with an update on a possible destination in pro wrestling for CM Punk and more. This is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Wrestling Hub Official and follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. Speaking about reuniting with Johnny Gargano in WWE, Tommaso Ciampa told Chris Van Vliet, "There's mileage of everything on the main roster. There are other ideas too that I could pitch them if they don't go the DIY route. It just takes someone listening so more can jump on board. I wish I knew. I'm not concerned with anyone listening to this. I really wish I knew. The amount of times it's been a green light, red light, green light, red light. We've done everything you can to prepare, new gear, slogans, anything you can think of to prep, started doing some social stuff at one point like green light, okay, and then you get roadblocks thrown in your way. I have no idea at this point. If it happens, I think it's cool, it's great. I'm a babyface underdog, whatever, but we have such great chemistry. If it's not going to happen, then let's get something going here, like I turn into a bad guy, because that's my cup of tea, something to grab on, something to show people. This is that NXT guy who was so hyped. This is why they liked him." During that same interview, Tommaso Ciampa revealed how DIY was created, noting that we got lucky in so many ways. Once we got in the door, Regal got helped a lot too. Because if you've seen the beginning of DIY, we're tagging, we're not, and then we finally have the shirt thing where we had that DIY thing, and then in the Brooklyn TakeOver match with the Revival, and even before that we had a match against American Alpha. I remember before that Alpha match, see, what would happen with us is we get a text from one of the writers of like, "You're needed for this taping in a couple of days in Full Sail," but it would be pretty last minute. I had this UK taping and I contacted the writer and said that I had this UK tour and asked if I'd be needed. He said, "Man, I don't know. I wish I knew, but I don't know." So I said, "Listen, I'm just gonna buy my flight back and hope I can get it refunded if they use us." So I'm doing all this stuff in progress, Scotland and the UK. I get this text the day before and they're like, "Yeah, we need you." And I'm like, "All right, cool. I have a flight in 3 hours." I flew back and I said to myself that I hope this match was worth it, and we had that match against American Alpha that people loved, and it was short, 10 minutes, but people loved it, and that solidified with them that they want us. So I'm glad I did that match because I went right back and finished my UK tour. That match got us to do the Revival thing. We had TakeOver Brooklyn, and all that happened before we were signed. They didn't even know about my shoulder until I went to Pittsburgh and stuff. I think that helped us because we were in such good graces with them. Like, we've got plans for these kids. It was just like, if any of those things doesn't happen at the right time, we pitched some weird stuff to them, like the Panda Express and stuff. We just wanted a panda to be our mascot because we were just doing skits and glorious bombs, and we were doing funny skits, you know? Announcing their top 250 female pro wrestlers for 2023, Pro Wrestling Illustrated wrote, "And new congratulations to Rhea Ripley for being ranked number 1 in the 2023 PWI Women's 250. To see the full list and all the analysis that come with, pick up your copy of the latest issue of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, digital edition or print pre-order at pwi-online.com. Rhea Ripley replied, "Mommy's always on top." The rankings starting at 1 and going down to 10 are as follows: Rhea Ripley, Julia, Bianca Belair, Jamie Hayter, Tam Nakano, Athena, Deonna Purrazzo, Willow Nightingale, Camille, and Jordan Grace. Revealing that his dog, Pharaoh, needed to have a procedure, Cody Rhodes wrote on Instagram, "Surgery today for the legend, lost some teeth, but still his normal, grizzled, cheerful self." It appears a Vince McMahon documentary is in the pipeline, as Bill Simmons said this about it to SI Media. Oh yeah, the Vince McMahon documentary is happening. It's awesome. I think it's going to be the first part of next year, and Chris Smith is directing it. I don't know if he's one of the 5 best documentary directors or one of the best 3 or whatever. Whatever short list it's on, he's on it, and we spent a lot of time on it, and I don't want to say too much. Yes, I had access to Vince. Well, that was the initial conceit of it, so I don't want to say too much, but I will say that I think it has a chance to be pretty spectacular. When talking about his ongoing recovery from a stroke he suffered back in February, Jerry the King Lawler told Sportskeeda, "I've had a bunch of different things and I'm still in rehab 3 times a week, and probably the main thing that's drawing me back now that you can probably tell as you hear me talk, my voice is not the same as it was beforehand. It's slowly coming back, but it needed to come back a little more before I could make sense with my speech and vocabulary." Mentioning that Brinley Reese replaced Jaccara Jackson on NXT, Dave Meltzer noted on Wrestling Observer Radio, "Brinley Reese, I don't think she's even wrestled before unless she's done some Florida shows under her real name, and they just gave her this name because she's on TV. Originally, she wasn't even supposed to be in the tournament, and yes, she was wearing Sol Ruka's gear." Talking about why Vince McMahon never had Samoa Joe become the WWE Champion, Road Dogg said on the Oh You Didn't Know podcast, "Vince is a babyface champion guy. And to get that from a promotional standpoint, you're not going to promote JBL, you're going to promote Cena. I don't know, I just feel like maybe that had something to do with it. I think Hunter realized that when he brought him back down to NXT, even if you can't do nothing, just come and talk for us because you're so good at it and you have such great facials when you cut a promo." Going over the future for Jade Cargill in WWE, it was said that Ringside News previously reported that WWE has a plan in place for Jade Cargill. They had the entire writing team pitching creative ideas for her prior to even announcing her signing to the world. That being said, WWE has big plans for the former TBS champion. Ringside News reached out to confirm that WWE has plans for her in-ring debut. When we asked why WWE is putting Jade Cargill on all 3 brands at this point, the response we received was, "Wouldn't you want to make sure everybody knows that WWE signed Jade Cargill?" Comparing the creative process in AEW to WWE, Adam Copeland told the Battleground podcast, "Every process has its pros and cons, right? It's great to be involved to a heavy extent creatively. I've been lucky throughout the years in producing. You are given some creative freedom. That's always great because as a performer, you have to be able to bite into what you're trying to produce out there. I've always said if there is some element of truth that the person behind the character can bite into, then the fiction should follow that truth, and that doesn't change. That's always treated the same. But it's nice to sit down and go, okay, how could this story play out? And being heavily involved in that, being involved on a week-to-week basis, that becomes more possible. It's not popping in every few months. That becomes hard. That becomes a hard process. To be involved in a large creative way when it's just popping in and out like that." On his YouTube channel, former AEW star Fuego del Sol said this about his time working with MJF. "This is not going to be good. People aren't going to like me for this, but if I'm honest, I'm not a fan of this guy, to be real. I'm just not. We're talking about the current AEW World Champion MJF. When I say I'm not a fan, I should reiterate that I try to never let my personal opinions get in the way of someone's actual talent. He's talented as all hell, incredible promo guy. When he does decide to wrestle, he puts on incredible matches. However, early on in AEW, way before I even got signed, he gave me one disparaging remark in front of a lot of people backstage, but it was offhanded. I'm sure he doesn't even remember it. I do, though. Some people are going to go out of their way to critique you or congratulate you or help you out. He kind of stuck to himself in that regard. Never really talked to me outside of his disparaging remark, and so I don't think we're each other's cup of tea. However, that doesn't change the fact that he's insanely talented, and I will never, ever, ever, ever let my personal opinions of someone get in the way of how good they are. He's great." In that same video, Fuego del Sol said this about his interactions with CM Punk in AEW. "He always made time for me. He was always kind to me. I don't know how everybody else feels about Punk. I tried to never let someone else's opinion of someone distract how they treated me. I try to figure out how they treated me. Did they treat me well? When I got hurt and had a foot injury, he had a similar foot injury the year before. He reached out to me when he didn't have to. He gave me advice. He let me vent when I was in a dark place during my injury. I will forever be grateful and thankful to him for that. He did not have to reach out to me and talk to me as much as he did. So he will always be a friend in my book. I like CM Punk and hope the best for him for whatever he decides to do next. The fact that he treated me so well means a lot to me. He was so good to me. If you're good to me, I'll forever be great to you. Big thanks to CM Punk. With it said that Impact Wrestling has reached out to CM Punk and given him an offer, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful added. I know a lot of people scoff at it, but yeah, Impact would welcome CM Punk. Beyond obvious reasons, people said he was really great backstage when he visited. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.